Kamala Harris sitting down for a 60 minutes interview that just aired, and holy for the first time in a long time, Kamala Harris was actually encountered with real journalism. She got press. Newsweek said that she was quote unquote grilled, which is what I thought for most of my life was supposed to happen to every presidential candidate. I thought grilling was the media's job, and I thought that candidates were supposed to be put to the test. That still applies to Donald Trump. Donald Trump gets pressed on anything that he says by the mainstream media. Kamala Harris has been getting lobbed a lot of softballs. She's been getting lobbed more softballs than there used to be at the MTV Rock and Jock softball game. But Bill Whitaker, the correspondent from 60 Minutes, I got to give this guy a shout out because he did his job. Not only asking questions, not like Dana Bash, who was asking Kamala questions and then giving her 2 or 3 options of how to answer, essentially trying to take her by the hand and lead her through the interview. Bill Whitaker asking real questions, and more importantly, asking real follow-up questions. And you could tell from Kamala's reaction to those follow-up questions that she was not comfortable. Let's go to the videotape.
My plan is about saying that when you invest in small businesses, you invest in the middle class, and you strengthen America's economy. Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
But pardon me, Madam Vice President, the question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes. It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. I plan on making that fair.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes...
How are you going to get this through Congress?
She got hit with 2 good follow-up questions, and both times she blinked her eyes. Well, what do I do? The deer was caught in the headlights. Not used to that. Bill Whitaker showed up to actually practice journalism, and I tip my cap to the man, because what used to be the norm, what we used to think that we could count on from the media, has been so scarce in the coverage of Kamala Harris since she was anointed by the Democratic Party to replace Joe Biden. It's the first time we've seen it. We're a month out from a general election, the first time that we've seen it. I commend Bill Whitaker for the simple task that he completed of not just letting her get away with soundbite answers. I now bring in the international streaming star from Nashville, Tennessee. Ronnie T-Shirts joins me. Ronnie, how surprised were you to see Bill Whitaker actually holding Kamala Harris accountable for her answers in a way that we have not seen this entire election season?
Oh, absolutely surprised. And it gets me thinking, is something going on here behind the scenes that we're not privy to? Are they throwing in the towel? Is this like the directive from the powers that be is like, we're not going to win this, so just go after her. We'll take our lumps. Trump will be president, and we'll figure out what to do after that. I mean, this just makes no sense based on what we've been seeing. It like literally came out of left field.
I was shocked. I said to you, I texted you last night and I said, holy shit, he treated her like a Republican.
Yeah.
Was what I said, you know? And look, I think Republicans should get tough questions too. I'm
Absolutely.
on team ask every politician tough questions. But what we have seen is Donald Trump getting fact-checked in real time. They attempted to do the same thing to J.D. Vance during his debate with Tim Walz, even when they had agreed in advance that there would be no real-time fact-checking. So it's sad. It's a sad fucking state of affairs, Ron, that it's a big deal that a journalist asked a major party nominee for president a couple of follow-up questions, and I'm sitting here and
leading the show
it's
with
quite
it,
a big deal, actually. Yeah, we're leading the show with the fact that she actually got pressed on a couple of her answers, because she's running for president like somebody who's running for like some office in 7th grade. The intellectual substance of what she has to say about 95% of the time is working middle class families work hard. Teachers are good. Firefighters are nice people. And the bad rich people need to pay their fair share so hardworking families can succeed. And he's like, well, how are you going to pay for that? How are you going to get it through Congress? How are you going to implement it? And immediately she starts blinking her eyes more times than if she'd walked into a door and hit her head. So she was clearly not prepared for even the most modest pushback, because she hasn't had any to this point, Ron.
Yeah, there are experts out there, and I saw some stuff on TikTok. I think I sent you one where experts talk about the whole blinking thing, and it's a mechanism that people kind of, that happens when you don't know what to say next, when you're caught. And it's kind of what you were talking about with the laughter, right? She laughs when she has no idea what to say, or she knows what she's about to say is bullshit. And so it's her mechanism. Yeah, she is just wildly incompetent. I mean, I sit there, it's so easy to say, oh, she's stupid, but I legitimately think she's not smart. And every time she gets, she's in these interviews without a teleprompter and without her knowing what the questions are beforehand, she just fails all the time. She's just not very smart, Ricky.
She's mediocre. She's mediocre. And she's mediocre for like regular jobs, not the most important job that there is for someone to fill. Not that any of us think that she would really be making the decisions. If she's elected, she's just going to be a puppet figurehead for the power brokers in the party who will tell her what to do, and she will listen because she doesn't know what's going on, and she knows that she doesn't know what's going on. She needs somebody to tell her what to do because she has no idea how to do any of these things. I taught college for 21 years, Ron, and I saw lots and lots and lots of junior college administrators, and she would have been a low-end administrator at a junior college, and that's just the truth. She is out of her depth. She is faking it. As I've said many times, she is a fraud. She is faking it, and she's a bad poker player, Ron, because her tells are that cackle, that nervous laugh when she's feeling uncomfortable, and she thinks that, hey, if we're all laughing, somehow or another, I'm going to be able to make my way and navigate through this difficult situation without everybody catching on to me. She is the student giving the presentation who has not prepared. I've seen it again and again and again, and I'm sure they have tried to prepare her. I'm sure they've tried to prepare her, but when she goes out and she's on a teleprompter, she can spit out empty platitudes, right? But when she's off teleprompter and she gets asked easy questions, okay, maybe she can get through that. But when she's off teleprompter and somebody asks her a hard question, she's fucked. And we saw that with what Bill Whitaker did in this 60 Minutes interview, Ron.
Yeah, you saw her the other day. There was something, I can't even remember what. Oh, she was at some rally, something, and the teleprompter went off and she just started saying 32 over and over again because there were 32 days until the election. And so she just kept saying 32, the 32, 32. Like, it was comical. It was again almost like an SNL sketch. She didn't know what to say. So it's like every time she said 32, the sheep in the crowd just cheered. So she said 32 again and again. Yeah, man. Like you said, she's going to be a puppet. Most likely Obama's fourth term if she wins. And I think that's where we're at.
Well, look, if the press commits to asking her real questions, she's going to have a long last month before this election. And the American people deserve to hear what she has to say. And hey, look, if you believe in her, if you're watching this and you say, well, Ricky, you're biased in some way, she actually is not any of the things that you say she is, I say to you, fine, let's see her prove it over the next month. Ask her real, substantial questions, and then let's see what she's got. And I actually hope that you're right if you disagree with me, even though I know that you're not. But I hope that you are, because it's scary as fuck to me that she is this close to the White House, as incompetent as she is. But you know what? Whether you like her, whether you don't like her, whether you're rooting for her, whether you're rooting against her, the American public deserves candidates for president be asked difficult questions and pressed on their answers. It should be done of every candidate. Every candidate. And it should be done at levels much lower than president, right? We should see pushback, and we should see questioning, vigorous questioning of people who are running for any important office in this country. And if she steps up and somehow knocks it out of the park, then good for her. But the American people need to see how she conducts herself when she's not on a teleprompter saying words that somebody else has written for her.
Yeah, Ricky, just imagine a company who's down to their final two candidates for an important job, vice president of operations, let's say, for a major company. There's going to be intense interviews. You're going to get interviewed by multiple people, and then the powers that be are going to sit down and they're going to make a decision based off of how you performed in those interviews. And that's what we're doing right now. It just so happens that the American people are the interviewees in terms of what we're listening to. And yet there's a lot of people out there, again, we talk about this all the time. No. We're going to hire her because she's fun. Like, she's fun. And she just the orange guy, he's bad. He's bad. I can just tell he's a loose cannon sometimes. I don't really care what he's capable of doing. It's just, but that girl, she's just wonderful. Like, she's a breath of fresh air. This is an interview, and we're not interviewing them. We're interviewing Trump. We're not interviewing her properly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem that I have. And if Trump weren't getting hard questions, I would say the same thing. Mm-hmm. They should both be getting. How can you be president of the United States if you can't sit down and explain your answers in some detail? Not just your talking points. She's got her talking points, and she goes around the country regurgitating the same handful of talking points. But how are you going to handle it when somebody asks you, well, hey, but what about this? But respectfully, Madam Vice President, or whatever Whitaker said, what about this? This is the question. And you can see immediately the way that she was just a deer in the headlights. She has no idea. And you know what? If I'm wrong, then Kamala Harris, you go out and take difficult questions for the next month, make your case to the American people, and prove me wrong. Because I would love for you to exceed my expectations. Because if you do end up being the president of the United States, I hope to God that you're more equipped to conduct the business of that office than it appears to me that you are. with that said, Ron, let's make one of our hard turns that we like to do on this program and go to the poll of the day over at Super 70 Sports on X, where we like to talk about stupid shit that is stupid in a better way than some of the answers that we see from our politicians in this country. And today's America's poll of the day is brought to you by me until we have an official sponsor. And Ron, here are your choices today on this Tuesday. We have Debbie Harry, of course, the popular lead singer, the lovely lead singer of Blondie. We have Tater Tots, which, in my opinion, one of the most underrated sides in America. Tater Tots, as I've said before, they should be much more readily available in this country. We have Airplane, the movie, in case there's any questions. Maybe I should have put an exclamation point on that because I believe the movie has an exclamation point, but I didn't do that. Hopefully there's nobody out there that thinks that I'm just talking about airplanes. And the 1996 Chicago Bulls, who went 72-10 and won the NBA championship. Ronnie, as always, how do you vote? How do you break it down?
So I actually like all of these. Airplane was, man, I remember when that came out, and it was one of those movies that if it showed up on HBO, you could just watch it over and over again. And loved Airplane. Tater Tots, I freaking love Tater Tots, man. And the best Tater Tots, free plug here for Sonic. Those things are the perfect crispiness and the perfect amount. They're so salty, but not so salty that it's uncomfortable. Like it takes the salt right up to the level.
Now you've got my attention. I went to Sonic yesterday for the first time in about probably 10 or 15 years that I had been to a Sonic. A very good friend of mine got a witch's brew. They have this, it's sort of like a root beer float, but it's sour, it's green, it's sour apple, and then it's got vanilla ice cream on top and little boba. Is that what they're called? The little circles that are full of juice. Are they?
Oh, kind of like bubble tea,
right?
kind of, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and it's caramel. So it is a sour. It's a sour apple caramel ice cream float. And I took my my daughter was celebrating her 19th birthday this weekend, and in town from Western Kentucky University, where they wear awesome football helmets, as you know, Ron.
Yep.
And she wanted to go to Sonic. So we went to Sonic and we had this witch's brew drink. And now that you tell me this, I feel like I missed out because I didn't get anything to eat. So maybe I'll go back this afternoon and celebrate this fine program that we're putting together this morning with some of those delicious tater tots.
No, you actually should. You should go back and get them, and then you can report back tomorrow on the show if you agree with me or not. But they are the best tater tots.
I think it has to happen.
Yeah.
How's their groovy sauce, Ron? Do you ever get the groovy sauce?
Honestly, the only thing I've had from Sonic in the last 20 years I've had tater tots a number of times, and that's it.
I love it. You just pull up and they bring like 4 large tater tots out to you and you just pound them in your car. Go ahead, Ron. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little carried away with these Sonic tater tots.
96 Bulls. That's who I voted for. I remember I watched every single game that was available to me to watch because this was 96. So it doesn't feel like I had every game available to me like it feels like we do now. But a lot of the games were on WGN. That was such a fun team to watch, and Jordan was just amazing every single game. So I voted for the Bulls. But I think that I think that this could be an interesting results here, where it's not top heavy.
Could be close. Tim is thinking about it.
Oh my god!
Well, look at that, Ron. That's
This might
my
be the
best
best-
effort
this
in a while.
It might be the best ever that you've done.
It's right in there. We've got Airplane at a tick over 30%. I always say if you can get all four in the 20s, you've done something. So this is pretty good. So we shall see. But we got a pretty close race here today. I knew that Debbie Harry was going to do well. You want to feel old, Ron?
She like in her
older
60s?
than you already
Is she in her
feel.
She's in her 60s.
Bro, she's 79 years old.
Oh, I do not believe you.
79 years old.
All right, when the camera goes off me,
Somebody can fact check me on that. We can have our crack production staff, the best in the business. They can fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure she is 79 years old. Tough to beat Michael Jordan. So Airplane, we'll see. Yeah, we got a race here today. The comments should be interesting when we check those. We got other things happening, Ron. Let's take a quick glance around the world of sports. Things getting a little bit chippy last night in the Major League Baseball playoffs. San Diego Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers in Game 2 of their series at Chavez Ravine. And the Padres winning last night 10-2 to even that series at a game apiece. But the real story here, Ron, I don't know if you saw it, but the Padres third baseman, Manny Machado, threw a baseball, I guess, with some intent behind it, is what we're hearing, towards the Dodgers dugout, directed towards apparently Dodgers manager Dave Roberts, or at least that's the idea. Yeah, you could see it there. He didn't just rear back and throw a fastball, but apparently it one-hopped to the net that's in front of the dugout. And there had been some contentiousness in the game already. I believe that Jack Flaherty, the Dodgers starting pitcher, hit Fernando Tatis Jr. with a pitch in the 6th inning, and Manny Machado taking exception to that, Ronnie. And so October baseball tempers flaring.
I mean, I guess it's a sign that they care, right? Like, matters to them.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know what to say, Ricky.
Usually, great. You're not. I feel like Bob Uecker in Major League. I'm like, he's not the best color man in the business for nothing.
Nope.
You're like Manny. Let's go to Dave Roberts and see what the Dodgers manager had to say about this little incident after the game.
I did see the video, and it was unsettling. Obviously, I have a relationship with Manny from years past. There was intent behind it. It didn't almost hit me because there was a net, and that was very bothersome. If it was intended at me, I'd be very. It's pretty disrespectful. So I don't know his intent. I don't want to speak for him, but I did see the video, and the ball was directed at me with something behind it. So, but I don't know what led to that. I didn't see it in real time, but I did see the video.
Did you feel after seeing the video he should have been ejected for that?
I don't think they should have had a little arm around each other conversation. If players can throw balls at opposing managers.
Ronnie, have you ever been to Dodger Stadium?
No, but I love the name Chavez Ravine.
Yeah, it's my favorite ballpark, and I love the area there that it's nestled in. It's just, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Dodger Stadium. The last time I was there, Manny Machado was with the Dodgers, and it was Manny Machado bobblehead night. And I took home a Manny Machado Dodgers bobblehead. So as Dave Roberts said, yeah, don't you say anything that's going to upset Walter. So there is history there. I I don't know. Look, who am I to say, but it seems like it's much ado about nothing. It didn't exactly appear to me that Manny fired a pea at the Dodgers dugout. I guess we need something to talk about. I'm sure Manny Machado was aware that there was a net there anyway, because kind of obvious, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Dave Roberts, get your panties out of a wad and let's move on. I don't see it. Speaking of panties in a wad, Ron, I don't know, Ron. The Jets. I don't know. That's a terrible segue. It makes no sense. I just wanted to say it again. Don't make me say it a third time. Robert Saleh fired. We just got the news shortly before this program. The Jets head coach, no longer. He is being replaced on an interim basis by the defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich. Ron, Robert Saleh out, 20-36 record during his tenure as the Jets head coach. And we've seen at various times this season questions being asked about the relationship between his star quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and himself. We saw Aaron Rodgers kind of blowing off the coach's attempt to give him a hug here a few weeks ago, or whenever it was recently. And a lot going on in the media there where it's like, if the question's getting asked more than once, are things okay between you guys? And Aaron Rodgers is like, yeah, we've got a great relationship, blah, blah, blah. It's just like every romantic relationship that deteriorates, Ron, where everybody else sees that something's fucked up, but the people in the relationship are maintaining that it's just fine. And then one day you see that relationship status change on Facebook, Ron. So Robert Saleh is out, and Aaron Rodgers, I think many will speculate, is the reason for that, fairly or not. And Adam Schefter, of course, on top of these things, as always, breaking that news just shortly over an hour ago, Ronnie.
Yeah, man. When you announced who the new head coach was going to be, I was half expecting you to say Aaron Rodgers, maybe their first player coach in the NFL.
Well, it's kind of like who's coaching the Lakers, LeBron or JJ Redick? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's LeBron. LeBron's the coach. Hey, he might be the GM too.
Well, listen, Aaron Rodgers can definitely take on player coach. This motherfucker thought he could be the vice president, Ron.
It's true. That is true. That is true. Yeah, the whole thing where it's coming when they ask the questions, is everything okay? And everybody says, involved say, oh, it's okay. It's kind of like when an owner of a team gives a vote of confidence to a manager, like, the manager's getting fired within the week.
Vote of confidence, right? It's always bad.
Yeah. So I
kind of feel the same way. There has to be one. Yeah. So in NFL teams, unlike baseball teams, NFL teams are generally loath to fire a head coach during a season.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it all that often in the NFL, particularly after 5 games.
Yeah,
but the Jets are 2-3, and obviously they decided that they needed a change, and it's a pretty dramatic change to can your head coach less than a third of the way into your season. So we'll see what happens, but I have to believe that the Aaron Rodgers relationship was in fact not good, and people are going to speculate that Aaron Rodgers in some form or fashion is the main reason that this happened. Ronnie, we've also got some sad news this morning, other news breaking. I just found out a few minutes ago, Louis Tiant, the great right-hander with the funky wind-up, for most well remembered for being a mainstay in the Boston Red Sox rotation in the 1970s, has passed away at the age of 83. So we continue to lose a lot of our favorite athletes from our childhood, Ron. It's, as you and I have said before, the next decade is going to be pretty grim, not just in terms of our favorite athletes, but our favorite musicians and actors and actresses and so forth, because, you know, when I look at the calendar and I see how old I am, the people that I looked up to when I was 10 years old are getting up there, Ron. And it's always sad when we lose these people. And it seems like lately we've been losing far too many.
Yeah, well, I think what happens is you know, we're also egocentric. Is it's been happening forever. It just wasn't really resonating with us when it was, you know, somebody from the 50s or the 60s. Like, yeah, maybe we'd recognize the name, but it didn't really hit home for us. But this is the first time where these names are coming out that have passed away, that it really resonates with us and it brings us back to our childhood. And I think that's why it seems like there's more. I don't really think it's happening at a higher rate. It's just happening at a higher rate for us.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, we're like about the 10,000th generation of human beings, roughly, if you do the math on it. So, you know, one day it'll be our generation. Man, this is getting a little grim. What am I tweeting? Am I tweeting anything that's happier than death? I hope that this tweet isn't about somebody dying. All right. He is dead though, Ron. So doesn't completely make me feel better, but Gordie Howe, the great Gordie Howe, who played in the NFL, I mean in the NHL, obviously. Gordie Howe was tough enough. He probably could have played in the NFL. But Gordie Howe, who played past age 50 and wrapped up his career with the Hartford Whalers, I believe he was 51 or 52 his final season in the National Hockey League. There he is, suiting up at age 50, Ron. And you want to talk about a tough son of a gun. He looks like he was just all muscle.
I was
the
going to say that
definition of old man strength.
I was literally just going to say old man strength right there, staring us in the face.
Personified.
Yeah.
He just, you know, you wonder how he could have played in the NHL past the age of 50. Well, take a good look at that photo of the guy, because he was all muscles and elbows, and he was just, you know, I remember being a young guy and you'd be playing pickup basketball or something, and some like older dude would show up and you'd be like, well, okay, we're going to run circles around this guy. And then he would like post you up, you know, or he would just hip check you or whatever. And you'd just be like, oh, holy shit, this guy just knocked me 5 feet. What's he made of? I didn't have that when I was 22 years old. So, you know, God takes away certain things as we get older, but he gives you a few things in return. And he gave Gordie Howe an abundance of old man strength, and Gordie used it well. OutKick's senior college football writer and friend of this program, the great Trey Wallace. Trey, you called it, man. You came on this program. I want to go ahead. Let's bring up the footage. We're going to give you your roses here, buddy. Bring up the footage here of Trey Wallace. I called you Nostradamus on this program yesterday. Let's have a look at what Trey said heading into this past weekend.
Saturday, I know. Here's the biggest thing I tell people: the slate might not look sexy, but I promise you, we're going to get 2 to 3 upsets on Saturday. So just be paying attention to what goes on during the day.
Well, we got your upsets and then some. We had 5 of the top 11 ranked teams in the AP poll go down, 4 of the 5 going down to an unranked opponent. You kind of saw it coming, but one thing that I think even you, with your savant college football abilities, you did not see Vanderbilt beating Alabama. What the hell, Trey?
Yeah, good to be back. What a wild weekend that was. I thought there, like going into it, like usually, man, if you've got a not so stacked card, kind of like I said, not a sexy card. Usually something's going to happen. Like it's going to get chaotic. And that's exactly what we saw. I mean, it was, and it could have gotten even worse. You know, if Miami didn't somehow pull off, 2:30 in the morning Eastern time miracle, being down 25 points, Cal would have beaten Miami, and just talk about, utter madness compared to complete madness. Looking back on the weekend, I look, Vanderbilt thing. I expected like Vanderbilt to like hang in with Alabama for like the first half, but like I expected Alabama to kind of push away there towards the fourth quarter and probably covered the spread. Credit to Diego Pavia, credit to Clark Lee and Vanderbilt. They really, if folks paid attention to that game, like really paid attention to it, they came out and they just popped them in the mouth, and they kept popping them in the mouth and hitting them and hitting them and hitting them, and Alabama would respond. But then the Alabama defense was struggling with Vanderbilt, and it got to a point and you're like, okay, like we're in the fourth quarter now. This is still Vanderbilt leading. Like, can they finish the job? Or as Cody Rhodes like to say, finish the story. And that's what they absolutely did. It was pandemonium. And watching, the other cool part too is like watching all, and you got the video right there, watching all the fans for Vanderbilt enjoy it, take the goalpost, literally walking 3 miles from where Vanderbilt Stadium is all the way down to Lower Broadway and then dumping them things into the river. It was just a fascinating. And the best part about that video you're watching right now is the Nashville Police Department decided, hey, man, we're not going to get involved in this, but we're going to help them. We're going to give them a police escort all the way down to the river because they knew that that's where they were headed. There is video out there right now, if you can find it on social media, of the I don't know what you want to call it. It's like the helicopter has night goggles on. Infrared. So infrared. Yeah, they're watching them on the infrared cameras, and you got all these. It looked like something out of like World War Z or I Am Legend movie. Like all these characters just going over the wall, like, and you see it, man. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic to see that happen. And look, man. Credit to Vanderbilt too. They had a tow truck waiting down there. They had a tow truck waiting to get those goalposts out of the river once the students dumped them in so they can make money, rightfully so, and sell it online. And if you wanted to pay $1,200, Ricky, you could have got a 6-inch piece of the goalpost. And I promise you they did, because those things were sold out within 4 hours of them putting them up for sale. So what an amazing weekend in Nashville.
Well, it seems like they're probably going to make a net profit. They took a $100,000 fine for doing this. Arkansas got it even worse. Arkansas knocking off number 4 Tennessee. They got hit for $250,000 because this was apparently their second offense. So I don't know what's the third offense. $500,000. I don't know. I don't know the levels of goalpost crime, Trey, but we saw a couple of huge fines levied.
Well, it is. I think it does go up to $500,000, and then it kind of resets. And then the best part about it that a lot of folks I don't think know about is that the schools that rush the field, they have to pay the opposing team. So Vanderbilt's actually cutting. Now they're not going to cut them a check. It's going to be taken out of their revenue at the end of the year. But $100,000 goes to Alabama. And the same thing with Arkansas. Arkansas had to write a check pretty much and send it to Tennessee for rushing the field. I don't think a lot of people realize that funny part that the SEC is instituted into their rules. That, yeah, man, if you rush the field on somebody, you got to pay the opposing school. But I promise you, Vanderbilt does not care. They wrote that check, And as you can tell, it was all worth it, judging by the crazy horror movie video that we're seeing right now.
Look at that.
That's wild, dude.
That's crazy.
What?
So you
the
have to
best
give
part
the
is-
money to the school that you. What is the logic of the other school receiving that fine money?
I get it. So it's more or less. I don't want to say putting the other team in danger or anything like that, but it's more or less okay. If you're going to celebrate at the behest of the other school, and because usually what the rule was is the SEC would find the school and then that money would go to a charity. Now they've made it where, okay, there were and a lot of it changed a couple of years ago when an Alabama player, Tennessee fan stormed the field in 2022. An Alabama player kind of unfortunately put his hands on a female during that rushing of the field. That's when everything really started to change. I'm not saying that incident was the change, but I think when the SEC decided, okay, look, we're going to punish them, but in a way that it benefits the other school that gets rushed. So whatever. I mean, Alabama lost, an embarrassing loss for Alabama. They get $100,000, which is a drop in the bucket to them. That's like giving them $5, to be honest with you, if I was. So at the end of the day, man, it doesn't matter.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.